Western family law is a pathway to intimate partner violence. But what if it centered good relations rather than colonial patriarchy? While anyone can be a victim of IPV, this presentation focuses on mothers who have experienced IPV at the hands of their male partners. Please note that some content may be triggering. Story is research. Context matters. Who we are shapes the way we see the world and the way we show up in it. As much as dominant Western thought would have us believe otherwise, research also includes the bias of the researcher. We need to name it and then stand in it to move forward. Hi, I'm Darrelyne. I am Ojibwe, Cree, and Michif. My collective homelands span multiple treaty territories, but the North raised me strong. I am a mother, the first person in my family to obtain a university degree, a researcher, a writer, and a survivor of intimate partner violence. A little of my story is woven into my research. In August 2020, while out for lunch, I received a phone call letting me know that the decision for my family law trial had been released. After years of a tumultuous court battle and months of waiting, the presiding judge in their first family law trial and after a career in employment law ordered shared parenting to my abuser, despite ample evidence of IPV. Saskatchewan is leading the way, with the highest rate of IPV in Canada. The province also holds the record for 2 times the national per capita number of IPV victims. Its latest domestic violence death review reveals that between 2015 and 2020, 53% of domestic homicide victims were Indigenous women. Colonialism has disrupted Indigenous ways of knowing and being. It has othered and subjugated them. But while Western systems are predicated on European superiority, patriarchy, and ownership, Indigenous systems are holistic and prioritize kinship, interconnection, and good relations. What is Wahkohtowin? Wahkohtowin means kinship, or all my relations. It's a worldview that we are all related and interconnected, including the land and non-human beings, like rocks, trees, and water. It also provides a guide for being a good relative. To have good relations is to be responsible for your actions and held accountable for them. It requires mutual respect, understanding, and consideration beyond oneself. If we centered good relations, the violence and harm caused by perpetrators of IPV would automatically disqualify abusers from equal parenting. The colonization of the land that is now known as Canada has resulted in the genocide of Indigenous peoples, a genocide that has continued today through intergenerational trauma and colonial law and policy. Not only are Indigenous peoples disproportionately impacted by violence, but Indigenous women are especially impacted by IPV. Many Indigenous nations were once matriarchal, but newcomers to this land saw the power and value of Indigenous women as a threat to colonization. They introduced patriarchy to control and subdue us, which has led to the double oppression of Indigenous women, both by Indigenous men and the Canadian state. The numbers don't lie. Indigenous women are disproportionately murdered by their former or current partners. Post-separation can be one of the most dangerous times for women and children, and yet the courts still expect mothers to co-parent with their abusers and facilitate access to victims with shared parenting. One of the general attitudes in Western family law is that IPV is not relevant to parenting, even though it is a major risk factor for child homicide. Out of the 34 deaths related to domestic homicide in Saskatchewan between 2015 and 2020, 4 were children. 1 is far too many. Western law as a whole operates on the basis of Eurocentrism and patriarchy. This has led to norms in family law that IPV ends with separation, that abusive men can still be good parents, and that the best interest of the child is maximum contact regardless of safety risks. The family law system is a pathway for intimate partner violence, especially for Indigenous women. The system itself reinforces the abuse through its facilitation of forced proximity, victim blaming, silencing, failing to protect children from abusive fathers, and lack of accountability. The best interests of the child, the principle on which parenting decisions are supposed to be made, is determined according to a colonial worldview, leading to decisions where the rights of fathers often trump safety. It appears that in many cases, the absence of fathers is viewed as more harmful than the risks they pose as abusers. Parenting decisions based on Wahkohtowin would require safety instead of patriarchal entitlement to be the main consideration, and abusers instead of victims would be held responsible for their actions. Judges would be required to take a holistic and relational approach when making decisions in regard to parenting. Through Wahkohtowin, the family law system would be responsible for monitoring and holding abusers accountable. This would require integration between existing systems and recognition that alternate ways of knowing can provide solutions. Victims should be free to focus on healing and prioritizing the safety of their children. Changes to the Divorce Act came into effect in 2021 that required the consideration of family and intimate partner violence when determining custody and access. Further research is required to see if this has had an effect on shifting the narratives and outcomes relating to IPV in family law. 8 years later, I still co-parent with my abuser. The parenting order facilitates his access and proximity to both of us, allowing the abuse to continue. But the home that I have built for us no longer contains a violent and angry man. At least half of the time, my son sees and is learning relational conduct through Wahkohtowin. He has a new victim now, and she still has hope that he will change. I hope she finds her courage someday, and that when she does, I hope things are different for her. It is time to disrupt the status quo. It is time to abolish a system that has never been a good relative with one that mandates good relations.